Continue our trig videos, and you know, as bad as that last video was, I hope that we know what this angle is right here. Hey, look, it has up 1/5. This should be about an 11-degree angle. And if I go over here, hey, look, this one is over. I just sort of turned the triangle sideways, right? It's up 2/10. This should be about an 11-degree angle. And we know that because we know that the ratios of 1:5 or 2:10 essentially mean it's about an 11-degree angle. And if you got that out of the last video, then that video was successful, even as bad as it was. If you didn't get that out of it, I apologize. All right, so as we begin trig, again, we have this trig chart that we're going to refer back to, and it's going to be really important to us because, again, you'll notice that the 11-degree angle, guess what 1 divided by 5 is? It's 0.2. And you can see, actually, I'm sorry, we're on this one. You can see 0.2 is very close to 1.908. So that's that ratio that we're talking about there. So I go away from the book when I do trig. I have this packet that I kind of stole. I would say I made, but I stole it from a bunch of different sources. But it goes in the order that I like to teach trig in. So it's a 7 worksheet packet, and I'm just going to do them one at a time. And that's how we're going to go through trig, and it'll just go 1 video per page, and then at the end we'll be done. Page of the trig packet, I'm going to refer back to this trig chart. You'll notice that there's 3 different ratios for each angle, and the reason for that is if I'm starting here, I have different sides, right? I have an opposite side, an adjacent side, and an hypotenuse side. So the first page is just simply recognizing how we mark opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse of a triangle, and it can get a little bit confusing. So I'm gonna mark this one as green. This angle is green, and I'll mark this angle as red because it's really all a matter of perspective. It's kind of like if you're in the front of a classroom, the opposite side looks one way. If you're in the back, the opposite side looks another, right? So as we mark these things, think about it from the green's perspective. What is the opposite side? Well, from the green's perspective, this is the opposite. I'm going to skip adjacent for a second, and the hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, so this will be the hypotenuse. And then the other side must be the adjacent side. Well, adjacent means next to. So if you think about this angle, there's 2 sides next to it. There's this side and this side. Well, this side's already the hypotenuse, so this side must be the adjacent. Well, now if we look at it from red's perspective, things are a little bit different. You'll notice that the opposite side has changed. So while this is green's adjacent, this is actually the same side as actually red's opposite side. The hypotenuse is the same for both, but now this would become red's adjacent. So it's all a matter of perspective, and that's why this trig chart has 3 different ratios, because it wants to know which side you're looking at, right? Are you looking at, if you're starting from here, opposite over hypotenuse is different than if you're starting from here, this would be opposite over hypotenuse. So it can be a little bit tricky. So the long story short is we definitely need to know how to name sides. And again, in this example, we're going to start with the angle that they give us, and we're going to mark O, A, and H. I just wanted you to realize that if I look from this angle, I get a different response. Also, I always get kids asking, what about from this angle? Well, we never go from the 90-degree angle. Because remember, we're trying to calculate angles here, and we already know this angle is 90 degrees, so we wouldn't start here because we already know that, so it's kind of irrelevant. So from this angle, this would be the opposite. This is always the hypotenuse, and this side would be the adjacent. So if we go down to question number 10, we're starting from this angle. This side would be the opposite. This side would be the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. And this side would be the adjacent. Again, I want to be clear. We would get a totally different answer if I asked you about this angle. I'm not asking you about that angle though, so that's not important. I'm only asking you about the one we're looking at. So I'll finish up with here. I'm starting with this angle. So this one would be the, hopefully you have opposite. This is always the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90. And then the other angle is always the adjacent, meaning next to leg.